Welcome once again, my fellow manipulators of digital fate. I'm Richie, this is Capricorn. Today's deck is something I've been wanting to build for a while, but I wasn't quite sure if it was quite ready to come out of the oven. But you know what? We pulled the trigger and we made it happen anyways. Before we get to the deck, I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons. We have a couple of new patrons now, Marlak at the Brew Crew tier, and then Kalin at the Brew Crew Elite tier. Thank you guys so much for becoming patrons. It does mean a lot to me. And then, of course, Squirrel and Yuck Foozy at the Brew Crew Elite tier, and our forever CPU savior, Terrence Rohrbach. All of you guys have been great. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. This deck is called the Iron Throne, and the idea here is we're trying to take our whole theory, our whole push to try and find the best tribe for Roaming Throne, and we're going to extend it to dragons. I've been wanting to build dragons ever since Rith was unveiled as a standard legal card, and it just hasn't quite been there. But with Ixalan being released and us now having Dracosaur as well as the Roaming Throne, which works with any tribe, I think it's time that we give dragons their proper due. We've got some cool cards from March of the Machine, the Aftermath as well, that we're able to utilize in this deck. And I think it's time. I hope this deck will get better. I hope we get even more dragons in the next few sets. And this deck can be something really special and really real before we see next rotation. But even just as it stands right now, I think this deck is super cool, and I think we're finally at a spot where we can actually run dragons and have it do pretty well. I'll let you guys be the judge of that when we get to the games, but before we talk about the deck and break it down, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. We blew past 4,000 subscribers. We're on our way to 5. I can't believe how fast the channel is growing, and that's thanks to you guys helping out. Every single time you hit that like button, every friend you tell about us that maybe becomes a new subscriber, every time you leave a comment, all of that stuff helps the algorithm go, oh, hey, people care about this channel, and it helps us get out to more people and grow quicker. And I can't thank you guys enough for helping the channel grow in that way, because I've been putting all of myself into this. It's been exhausting, but well worth it, and I am super glad that you guys are enjoying the content and finding something of value in what I'm putting out there. So it means a lot to me. Thank you guys so much. Check me out Monday through Friday over on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/QuarantineCapricorn, because if I'm alive and I'm breathing, I'm there and I'm streaming. Now let's break down this deck. Alright, so we're finally doing dragons. I pulled the trigger because we got Roaming Throne and a couple other new cards that I think finally make dragons competitive enough and viable enough. And we decided to go for a super synergistic build, just doubling down on Roaming Throne. Roaming Throne is a 4-mana 4/4. It's a golem. It has Ward 2, and when it enters, you choose a creature type. It is that type, and then also if a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. So being able to jam this as a 4/4 dragon with Ward 2 for 4, that's going to double all of our dragon triggers, is really the core of everything that the deck's trying to do, and almost every dragon in the deck is able to get insane value off of this, get multiple triggers that put us so over the top as far as card advantage and value is concerned that we should be able to just win games outright because of that. So starting at the bottom of the curve, we've got 4 Goldhounds. This is just the best way to ramp in a mostly base red deck. This helps us get our 3-drop on turn 2, or our 4-drop on turn 3, or our 5-drop on turn 4. All of those kinds of play lines matter so much in this deck. It would be better if we had like a normal mana dork or something like that, but because the deck needs to be base red, I think Goldhound is the best we can do, and it perfectly fills that role pretty well. We're also running 1 Shivan Devastator, which is never actually coming out as a 1-drop, but it is an X cost dragon. It's another dragon that counts towards our dragon synergies, and we're able to scale this as the game goes on, so it helps fill some of our curve spots. Comes in as a flying, hasty, however big we can make it dragon. Really good for completing any of the battles and flipping them right away. Moving on to the 2-drop slot, speaking of battles, we have 4 Invasion of Tarkir. Now, this card is absolutely nuts in this deck. There is sort of an alternate mode on Invasion of Tarkir that gets overlooked a lot of the time, and that's if you have enough dragons in your deck, this thing can just win the game outright. If you have a hand that's just full of dragons, you can target your opponent's head with Invasion of Tarkir and do 6, 7, 8 damage to their head, like, just out of nowhere for 2 mana, and it can be absurd. But if we can ever flip this and get the Defiant Thundermaw, it's a 4/4 flying trample that makes it so whenever a dragon we control attacks, it deals 2 damage to any target. And if we have that roaming thrown out, now that's going to trigger an extra time for every dragon. So if we swing with 3 dragons, we'll get 6 triggers with a roaming thrown out. Absolutely absurd. And that exponentially increases if we manage to flip a second Defiant Thundermaw and have 2 on the field alongside a roaming throne. Then it just gets way out of hand and can easily just end the game outright. We've also got 1 Irencrag. We don't really want multiple copies of these because usually a second copy is pretty dead, but we're happy to see the first one play it on curve to help us ramp for the same reason we're happy to run the Goldhounds. And this all leads us into our 3-drop slot, which is really where the deck starts to come together. We're running 4 Rivaz of the Claw, which is the main reason why we're in, even though we're kind of base mono red, we're really base Rakdos. And it's mostly just for Rivaz here. Being able to make sure that we can play this on curve. This does not count as a dragon, so we're not able to use our tribal lands to make black or red mana for this. But it is a legendary creature, so we are able to use the Plaza of Heroes for that reason. But we still need to make the rest of our lands base Rakdos just so that we have the consistency in black and red mana to be able to play this thing on curve. But if we can play it on curve and it survives, it can easily ramp us into our best dragons, and we can take over the game by just having the best creatures on the board. And if it doesn't survive, it means we force them to use their removal spell, and when we start playing our actual threats, our dragons later on, maybe they're out of removal because of that. So it's kind of a win-win situation. And what also makes this good is if we top deck this late in the game, it allows us to play dragons from our graveyard, which is, I think, part of the card that's overlooked. So it's good on curve, but a lot of times things that will ramp you like this on curve aren't great top decks. But Rivaz here is a super good top deck later in the game because it'll let us slowly be able to replay all of our dragons from our yard if we make it to the late game, at a point in the game where we've probably got done running our opponent out of their removal. So it fills a lot of different slots in this deck, and the big downside is just that it's easy to remove. But like I said, as long as we can keep jamming dragons on the field, forcing them to have to remove Rivaz, and then eventually run out of removal before they can deal with all of our dragons, can be good enough on its own if you play around it correctly. Also in the 3-drop slot, we have 4 Kolaghan Warmonger. This card is nuts. It was from March of the Machine, The Aftermath, and it didn't see a lot of play. It didn't get a lot of love when it was first released, which makes sense because dragons haven't been super viable. But I think it's time for this card to shine. 3/2 haste for 1 red and 2, and whenever it attacks, you don't have to deal combat damage to the opponent. You just have to attack. That's it. You get to trigger and look at the top 6 cards of your library, reveal a dragon from among them, and put it into your hand. Now, this is one of the best ways to just keep refilling our hand with dragons, and have a huge handful of dragons for something like a Tarkir to the head. But also, it's another card that they absolutely have to deal with, or else we just keep drawing dragon after dragon after dragon. So forcing them to use their removal on this, most of the time we've already gotten some value off of it and got at least 1 dragon off the top 6 into our hand, even if they, kill it afterwards. So it sort of replaces itself and forces them to use up their removal so that we have a better chance of the dragons that we're playing in subsequent turns actually sticking on the field. So both of these kind of have that same effect in the 3-drop slot, which makes them both really good here. Moving on to the 4-drop slot, we have 4 Decadent Dragons. 4/4 flying trample for 4. Whenever it swings, it makes a treasure token. So this helps us ramp. Sometimes in some situations it can help us mana fix. But what makes this dragon particularly good is it also has the adventure expensive taste. So sometimes if we just need to make sure we're making our land drops, or we're just out of gas, we can use expensive taste to exile the top 2 cards of our opponent's deck, and most of the time one of those, at least one of those, will be a land. So even just making sure we can play one more land and make our next land drop, regardless of what color that land makes, can make the difference in this deck just completely curving out and being perfect. So having this as extra value to be able to play on curve if we need it is great. And then also just sometimes being able to hit super valuable cards from our opponent's deck that just give us more things to play, more things for our opponent to have to deal with, can be really good. It's just sort of an automatic 3-for-1 if you use the adventure and the dragon that can create treasures every turn for you. This thing just does everything we want to do, and not only that, but creating a treasure token by attacking is a trigger. So if we get the roaming thrown down, the Decadent Dragon is going to make 2 treasures every time it swings, which is going to ramp us into a whole lot of shenanigans. We're also running 1 Atsushi here. Tempted to run more, but with it being legendary, I think I'm okay with just having 1. This is another 4-drop. It's a 4/4 flying trample, but when it dies, we get to either create 3 treasure tokens or exile the top 2 cards of our library and play them until the end of our next turn. So this is a way to put something out on curve that, again, forces them to have to use their removal while giving us value when they do play that removal. So what's great about this deck is everything on curve kind of puts them in a very difficult situation where they have to keep jamming removal, and as soon as they run out, we can take over the game. But even as they're jamming removal, a lot of our cards are getting value off that removal, like the Decadent Dragon probably making us a treasure, or at least exiling the top 2 to play before we actually play the dragon, and therefore having extra value even when they do use the removal on it. And like the Atsushi here, that when it dies is giving us value. So it's also a trigger. So if we have roaming thrown down, we'll get double triggers. We'll get like 6 treasure tokens, or we'll exile 4 cards instead of 2. So another card that's awesome with the roaming thrown. Moving on to the 5-drop slots, we've got Zurgo and Ojutai, which is probably the best one from March of the Machine. And probably, honestly, it's a contender for best dragon in Standard right now, I think. 1 white, 1 red, 1 blue, and 2 for a 4/4 flying haste. It has hexproof as long as it entered the battlefield this turn, so you know you get to at least swing with it once. And if you swing with it, whenever you deal combat damage to a player or battle, you look at the top 3 cards of your library, put any one of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order, and then you can choose and return a dragon to its owner's hand. So you can do some really cool things like jam this in, swing with haste. They can't remove it because of hexproof. And then after it hits, you get to look at the top 3. You don't have to pick a dragon specifically like Warmonger when it looks at the top 6. Zurgo and Ojutai here gets to grab any card. So maybe you find like a Tarkir off the top and you can jam that. But another thing that's cool that you can do is it lets you return one of the dragons to its owner's hand. So if you swung with, say, the backside of Tarkir, the Defiant Thundermaw, you could return Defiant Thundermaw to your hand, and if you have a hand full of dragons, it comes back to your hand as Invasion of Tarkir, and then you can just replay Invasion of Tarkir and maybe do like 7 damage to your opponent's head and just win the game outright. So you could set up some really, really cool combinations with Zurgo and Ojutai. But even if you don't do any of that stuff, honestly, just being able to swing in with a 4/4 flying haste for 5 and get automatic card advantage by grabbing the best card off the top 3 is insane in and of itself. And we're able to get the mana we need from the tribal lands that we now have, which I'll get to in a minute. In the same capacity, we're able to play Rith with those tribal lands as well. 1 green, 1 white, 1 red, and 2 for a 5/5 flying Ward 2 dragon. Other dragons you control have Ward 2, and at the beginning of your end step, if a creature or planeswalker an opponent controlled was dealt excess damage this turn, you create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. So everything on this works so well with Roaming Throne. The ward counts as a triggered ability. When they try to target one of our creatures that has ward triggers. So that ward 2 that it gives to all the dragons will actually be ward 4 if we have a Roaming Throne in play. And since the Roaming Throne will count as a dragon, it has its own ward 2, and it also gets ward 2 from the Rith. So it will also have ward 4. So if we're able to jam Rith on the field, now all of a sudden all of our dragons have ward 4, which is nuts. But if we do excess combat damage, we're making 2 4/4 flying dragon tokens instead of 1 because of Roaming Throne. And also it's worth noting out that Zurgo and Ojutai's triggered ability, where we get to look at the top 3 and put something into our hand, that's also something that will trigger twice off Roaming Throne. So everything in the deck is getting a ton of value off Roaming Throne, which I absolutely love. Moving on, we've got Bonehoard Dracosaur, which is probably the best card in the deck. I underestimated this card substantially, and I think maybe if I was to make an edit right now, after playing all of the games and seeing what it could do, I think maybe going up to 4 Bonehoard Dracosaurs is really the way to go. Right now there's 2 in the deck, but this card is just insane. If you stick it on the field and they don't deal with it, you just win. It's a 5/5 flying first strike dragon for 5, so it's got a super good body on rate for 5 mana. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. If you exiled a land this way, you make a 3/1 dinosaur, and if you exiled a non-land, you make a treasure. So this is another way to ramp and mana fix with treasures, to make extra 3/1 dinosaurs, and not only that, but exile free cards to jam off the top of our library every turn. It's just so much card advantage in one card, it's kind of insane. And if you manage to get this guy to stick, like I said, you'll just win. And that's why I've been pointing out the entire time we've been going over this deck tech that everything in our curve is a must-answer threat that will usually eat removal. Because as we're playing our 3-drop, 4-drop, and they're removing them with their removal, by the time we slam our Bonehoard Dracosaur, they should be out of removal, which means this thing will stick. The biggest downside to the Dracosaur is just the fact that if it doesn't survive the turn cycle, you get no value. They can kill it with a 2 or 3 mana removal spell, and you are left with nothing. You paid 5 mana, they paid 2 or 3, and the 2 cards canceled each other out. That's tempo loss. That is bad. That is normally why 5 mana creatures that don't do something the turn they come into play aren't that great. But this card is similar to Sheoldred in that if it sticks around, it can just win the game by itself. So if you build your deck appropriately, where you're forcing your opponent to have to use their removal early, so that they're probably out of removal by the time you jam the Dracosaur, and not only that, but also including 4 copies of Rivaz, so even if they kill Dracosaur, you can jam a Rivaz the next turn and play it from the grave. That's when you're really able to take a deck like this and just really push it up a notch and take it to the next level, turn it up to 11, and see it actually put in a lot of work on the ladder. So Dracosaur, must have, absolutely amazing. And like I said, if I was going to make any alteration to this deck right now after playing it, I would probably go up from 2 Dracosaurs to the full play set of 4, because it's just that good. We've already talked about Roaming Throne, but there's one other card that I tried here, and that's Trumpeting Carnosaur. Now granted, this is not a dragon, but I think it fits into the deck really well. All of our dragons are 5 or less, which means all of our best cards in the deck can be hit by Trumpeting Carnosaur's Discover 5 when we play it. But more important than that, this card slots into our removal slot. We have 4 Invasion of Tarkir, and then 2 Carnosaurs that can be discarded for 3 mana on turn 3 to do 3 damage to anything we want. That's kind of like our 6-card removal package. So don't look at it as a weird like creature slot that should have been a dragon and we're not getting as much dragon synergy because we're playing a dinosaur instead of a dragon. Don't look at it like that. Look at it as this is our 3 mana removal slot, but instead of it just being a 3 mana piece of removal, later in the game, it's something way better. It's something that gives us a 7/6 trampler while also most of the time discovering one of our dragons for free. So when we play it, we most likely do get a dragon out of it, but we also get this 7/6 trampling body. So because of all of that, because it will definitely, well not definitely, but most of the time, hit a dragon with its discover when we play it, but it also doubles as removal in the early game, I think it's worth the slot for those reasons alone. And then last but not least, we really need to talk about the mana base. The 4 Secluded Courtyard and then the 4 Cavern of Souls from Lost Caverns of Ixalan is what really makes a deck like this able to be used. Combined with the Plaza of Heroes, it means that all of our legendary dragons now have 12 lands in the deck that can make any color they need to for any of them. And that's what lets us run Zurgo and Ojutai and Rith inside a mostly Rakdos deck that needs to be mostly Rakdos because of Rivaz. So those lands are kind of the MVPs for running a build similar to this. And you absolutely need them if you're going to run this version of dragons. We've also got the 3 Sulfurous Springs, 4 Haunted Ridge, 4 Blackcleave Cliffs, and then just 1 mountain in case they try to use any kind of land destruction shenanigans on us. We have something to search up. But this is the deck. Dragons are super fun. I think they're finally at a point where they're competitive, and there's a lot of different ways you can take this deck and build it in different directions. I wanted to try to stick as close to mono red splashing 5 color as possible, and I think it works super well. But we'll check out the games and I'll let you guys be the judge of that. So let me know in the comments below what you think of this brew, what you might do to change it up, or if there's a card that maybe we've overlooked. And let's check out the games. We will try this. We can Tarkir or Irencrag on 2. We can Decadent Dragon on 3 if we need to. Keep having Irencrag in our opening hand though, that's pretty good. Dragon. I think we want the Warmonger. So if we don't hit a land next turn, we're going to play Expensive Taste and try to hit a land of his to play. If we do hit a land, we're probably going to play Zurgo. Alright. No lands. That's lame. Did not expect that to happen. Guess we'll grab a Dracosaur. And the turn. I mean, we have all the value in the world. We need a Rith on the field with a Plaza of Heroes so that we can play these green cards. Or we need treasure, which means Decadent Dragon needs to come out. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can Tarkir for 14. More than that if we hit a dragon off Warmonger. I think we just kill him with Tarkir. Maybe we should just do that every game. Just collect a bunch of dragons in our hand and then Tarkir for lethal. Do you think he has a counterspell? Oh, he doesn't even have blue available. He's gonna get real mad. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Take 8. And scoop. Warmonger is like a Trojan horse win condition that just turns Invasion of Tarkir into 2 mana for 8 damage to the head. Like, what? Thank you, Warmonger. Good God. Okay, that game has to go up on the channel. Alright, we're gonna try and keep this. We'll see how it works. Unfortunately, we can't play the Goldhound unless we choose Dog for Courtyard. We also can't play the Rivaz unless we choose Viashino or Warlock. Is anything else in the deck a Viashino or a Warlock? No. I guess we probably have to just do this. Dog. Goldhound. And then Plaza, Rivaz on 2. And hope it doesn't die. It's probably about to get leylined. Nope. We might have a chance. Probably not, but we might have a chance. Stomper. Sick. Still don't have quite enough mana. I think we just go Decadent Dragon here. We can swing, make a treasure, play a 5-drop, play Rith. If he doesn't kill it. I mean, I think we let him flip it. If he has a leyline, he will be able to use it to cast the leyline. That's the only thing that's bad. Hit for 4. And then we'll play Rith. All my dragons got ward. Is he gonna Sunfall? You've got 4 mana for a dragon.
Let's rock!
Thank you for the follow. DK. DK. Oh wow. We just smashed apparently. We're just gonna jam the Irencrag, I think, and end the turn. Is he gonna Sunfall finally? He did nothing for an entire turn. Turn cycle? Leyline Binding, okay. That's fine. No blocks. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I think maybe... four damage to any target. I mean, I think we just win with either Tyrant or Zayatora. Let's try this first. See if we get through for 4. I mean, we might see a counterspell here, right? I think we try Zayatora first. Decline. In the turn. Okay, I guess we beat ramp. Alright, let's try this. Start with the vents. If that was an untapped land, we could play Warmonger on 2. So that's kind of a bummer. Play out these. And then we can play Rith next turn. That's wild. Or we could just play Rivaz. I think we get the thing out. Meglaws. Well, you can't swing because of Meglaws. If we do excess damage, we make a 4/4. And we have 1 dragon to show. So we could kill the Picnic Ruiner and make a 4/4 if we wanted. That's what we're gonna do. And then we're gonna flip this guy. And get a token. Seems good to me. Pay the ward. We're just gonna let him through. And we're gonna nuke Meglaws next turn. Why did it give it Menace and Vigilance after it already tapped it? Weird. I skipped the whole turn. Wonderful. Alright, so we can do 3 damage to something with a Tarkir. Let me think. Flippity flip flip flippity flip flip. Trigger. Trigger. Get another Thundermaw. I think we still salvage this game. Bizarre though. Very bizarre game. Godric. Audacity. He's got Picnic Ruiner left and that's it. I mean, we have to not be greedy. And just do that. Plays the Picnic Ruiner. Does leave us open to potentially dying to a lightning strike here. Oh, God. So close. Oh my God, that was so close. We'll keep this. The only thing I could see not being better about doing it that way is it being harder for people to, like, it being harder for people to, like, know at any given time what's legal and what isn't. But I think once people get used to it, like, that aspect of it will kind of go away. Yeah, but the thing is, it's also going to affect, like, they're selling packs of Crimson Vow, but they're selling less new packs. Because less cards in the new set are competitive in Standard. Because the card pool of Standard is so much bigger, and they can just keep using their old cards that are already good, that they already own. So it's like, yeah, they can sell more packs of the older set, but then the trade-off is they're just going to sell less packs of the newer set. Yeah, it's just silly. It's just silly. There's going to be a lot more bans, too, because of it. When a card is a problem, it's going to be around a lot longer than it used to be. It's going to stay a problem for a lot longer. How many cards would be banned right now if we had actually had rotation back in September? Because at least 4 of them that were banned wouldn't even be in Standard right now. And therefore they wouldn't need to be banned. I guess we'll just swing. See if we can hit another dragon. Alright, we'll play the Regent. Warmonger is just really good in the right deck. I think the only thing that's really keeping this deck down is no 2-drop dragons. I think if we had one good 2-drop dragon to go alongside Invasion of Tarkir as your 2-drop slot, and then you've got the Viashino Rakdos guy and the Warmonger as your 3-drops, and then everything 4 and above is your dragons, like, I think this deck would be pretty sound. But because you don't, you kind of have to waste some stuff to a certain extent. We're going to swing. We're probably going to play Rivaz. I want you. And I want hit a land. No land. Damn it. End the turn. Yeah, I think Hasbro... I mean, one of two things has to happen. Either Hasbro's going to sell Wizards of the Coast, or Hasbro's going to walk back all the decisions they've been making because they just keep making less and less money. Like, that's really it. What do we do here? We could swing in for 4 with a Shivan Devastator. That's not going to be good enough, I don't think. Oh, I know what we do. 1, 2, 3, 4. We just win. I forgot about this part. 6 damage from an Invasion of Tarkir. We'll say this, once Murders comes out, the Roaming Throne's gonna be really, really fun with Angels. We'll keep 7. Oof. Like Aurelia doubling up triggers with Roaming Throne sounds wonderful. Right, Irencrag. And we'll swing. Lightning Strike. Alright. What you got for me? Is it the Rith? Alright, well, we're gonna jam Roaming Throne. Pick Dragon. Seems pretty okay. Fading Hope, sure. Dragon. We'll go with Dracosaur. Let's see. Alright, 2 lands. Warcrafting the Dracosaur. Alright, we need that card advantage to go away. Unfortunately, we don't have enough dragons to do it. I guess we're just, what, Roaming Throne into Roaming Throne into Roaming Throne? If we can draw into another dragon, we can Tarkir for 4. Kill the Eruth. We got Play with Fire and Iconoclast. Sure. I think we're just gonna have to kill the Iconoclast with the Tarkir. Nah, we still need to get rid of a Rith more. He's almost out of gas. We're just gonna do it this way. Dragon! Unwrap your new guitar? Yes, do it. Yeah, we're gonna be snowed in all weekend, guys. I'm literally just spending the whole weekend snowed in creating content for YouTube. And some of that might be streaming, so... It was 17 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday. I don't know what that is in Celsius. 6 mana. I really want to kill a Rith. We're just gonna do this. Let him block with some tokens, it's fine. We'll play another Roaming Throne. Jeez Louise. Maybe we want to be at 3 Roaming Thrones instead of 4 in this deck. I mean, we want it consistent, but this is kind of crazy, right? Good luck paying 6, buddy. He didn't realize that the ward counts as a trigger. That's hilarious, Fuzi. -8. Jeez, that's dude, you're fucking cold, huh? All right, his entire turn, all 7 mana had to be spent on 1 Fading Hope. Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, next turn's gonna be fucking crazy. How many Defiant Thundermaw triggers are we gonna get? A lot. Fuzi has a ridiculous idea. Let's all be surprised. Let's all pretend to be surprised. Scry 1. Sure. I don't understand why he didn't play the Iconoclast first to get a trigger off of it. Seems weird. Oh, he's just trying to kill me outright. He's hoping he can draw into enough burn off Virtue of Courage. And he doesn't want to waste the mana, right? I think that's greedy. But I mean, he knows he's dead next turn, so I mean... It is what it is. That's way too much, Fuzi. I don't know what you're thinking. Draconic Destiny will not do enough in all the games where we don't have Guardian. And Guardian will not do enough in all the games where we don't have Draconic Destiny. There's nothing else. It just, there isn't enough. There isn't enough for that. points, isn't it? So probably just like a couple more games, honestly. I feel like I'm pretty close. I just don't want to have to walk away from this now and then come back later and risk forgetting about it. We're gonna play the Cliffs, say go. I'm trying to feel out the different ways things synergize and how some synergies are better than I originally envisioned or worse than I originally envisioned, and like see how things curve out against what other people are doing. So I can kind of take that and run with it. We'll just kill the Warden here. We'll go Rivaz on 3. And if we get lucky and it doesn't get killed, and we top deck a land, we can play Tyrant. We shall see. Strange. I don't trust it. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's just using Witchstalker Frenzy. Oh, at least we got another one. So we'll just play the other one. Same boat. We want to top deck a land if we can. So much we can do here. This is what we're actually going to do, though. We're going to use one Tarkir to flip the other Tarkir. And then we're going to play Goldhound. Goldhound makes it so that if any one of these doesn't get a buff, we get to just eat it with the Goldhound because of First Strike. So it's going to be a little harder for him to swing with everything. And if he wastes some kind of a combat trick on just getting through our Goldhound, then that's good for us. So either way it would be a very good 6, 7, 8. We could Hoarding Broodlord. I don't think we bother to kill anything. I think we just flip the other Tarkir. He's got a lot of little dudes, and he might be buffing them all, which would kind of suck. Alright, he is out of gas completely. So I think we're okay. Like, next turn we have so many triggers, it's nuts, right? We're doing 12 direct damage from our Thunder Maws, if they're not dealt with. And if we top deck a land, we can play the Broodlord without even having to use any of our dragons to convoke it. last two blockers. Let's see. We could go like this. We could go like this. We could go like this. And then how much are we taking? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We go to 1. And then we win next turn. We could have been at 2 if I wanted to chump a 3-power creature with the Goldhound. But it didn't really make sense. I mean, I think we just swing with everything so we don't play the Broodlord. Smack, 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 smack. Buff. Hello. The climb is a goin', Chunky. I'll keep this. This actually looks really good. Tarkir hits for 4. If we draw one more dragon, it can hit for 5. Warmonger comes down for 3. Draws us into value immediately. We'll start with Plaza. We do have to have a dragon in play in order to play Tarkir. Unfortunately. Yeah, we have no color mana for anything else. Yeah, we don't even have a way to make black for expensive taste. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to name Warrior. So that we can play Warmonger. Swing in. Find, I mean, whatever we can play next turn. A 5-drop. I think we find Rith. We might just play the Zurgo instead. But at least we now have the option. We definitely don't need a second Decadent Dragon. It's just too bad neither of them are black. Guess we Zurgo. Decline. Good old Ward. Good old Ward. Do we want our 6th land, or do we want a Dracosaur? Oh wait, we've got... I want the Dracosaur. Alright. This deck is good if it's done right. We need more of our 5-drops. Our 5-drops are better than our 6-drops. I keep questioning why we're even running them. We should just be running 4 Dracosaurs and 3 Zurgo and Ojutais and 2 or 3 Riths. Maybe we could also run some more creature removal though. I believe in miracles. Let's swing and see what happens first. Oh my god. So I think we just win. I guess I probably should have played Rith, right? For the ward. He'll go to 8, gain 2, go back up to 10. Or we could Plaza of Heroes. Yeah, we're gonna do that. You gain nothing. And then we'll take a Devastator. And then we'll decline. And then we'll play Tarkir for the win. Take 8. Oh, baby. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible, so honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your contributions. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe. The more likes we get and the quicker we get them, the bigger this channel will grow and the faster it will grow. I'd love nothing more than this channel to become something very special for you guys, but it's entirely up to you how fast that happens. Also, if you'd like more deck text, that's somewhere over there. And if you'd like to see what else the channel's been up to lately, that's somewhere up that way. Also, subscribe, circle below, do all the things.